Hey Blue Stars, welcome back to your Not So Daily exposing our classmates. In our next biology lesson, we had a substitute teacher because Mr. Williams wasn't in. I walked into the classroom and noticed that a group of guys had taken my usual seat. I thought about sitting at the back, but the popular girls who would probably give me the craziest side eyes were occupying one side of the back row. The other side had a friend I sometimes talked to, but she was already sitting with her own group. So instead, I went up to Nico and asked, "Can I sit here?" He shrugged and said, "Sure." A few moments later, Freddie and this boy named Harlan started making loud fart noises. Then Owen, who was sitting between them, actually did fart, and everyone around him started covering their mouths. A second later, Freddie let one out too, but he immediately blamed Harlan as if that wasn't enough. Freddie reached over and turned on the gas taps, and the whole room started to smell weird like gas. He kept insisting that the smell was from Harlan's farts, and then acted all dramatic and ran out the laboratory. The teacher didn't care as Freddie returned after. Minutes later, they began throwing pens and paper balls at each other, thankfully not at me, until Harlan dropped one of the paper balls. One of the popular girls picked it up and launched it straight at his head, but he dodged it. The ball flew right past him and landed perfectly on the substitute teacher's desk. She looked up, annoyed. She wanted to know who threw it. The popular girls blamed the boys, and the boys blamed the girls, and nobody wanted to take responsibility. When the substitute came over to our table, she asked me and Nico what actually happened. Nico said it was the girls, and I added, "Yeah, I'm not friends with any of them." So telling the teacher the truth didn't bother me. The substitute side then ended up praising me and Nico for being the only ones who stayed focused and finished our work. Another time, during lunch break, I was walking with Laura and Moon. We were heading down the maths corridor when we passed my maths teacher, Mr. Jones. As we walked by him, Laura had the audacity to say,
"Bluebean, isn't that your math teacher? He's so leng."
I froze and gave her the most exaggerated, disgusted expression, saying, Yuck." Thankfully, she was only joking, but I'm pretty sure he heard at least some of it. He didn't react, though he's a millennial or maybe even older, so I'm hoping he didn't fully catch what she said. I did kind of know that Laura was just kidding as he looks nowhere like her type, but it was just so unexpected to hear. Also because I had maths class next. At the end of the class, when I was getting ready to leave, Mr. Jones said my name. I said in my head, "Oh, I'm cooked, fried, boiled, blended, shoved in the mouth, chewed and spat out." I turned around and gave him an awkward smile. He just said, "Did I say your name right?" I just replied, "Oh, yes," and he just did a silent cheer or whatever. I was like in my head, thank goodness. Speaking of math teachers, my class had a math teacher a few years ago whom I'll call Mr. Adam. I'm not trying to shame him, but he was very skinny and clearly an introvert, so I never really understood why he chose to become a teacher. In that old maths class, I sat next to a guy I'll call Alan. He used to mock the way Mr. Adam would say, "You're 7." To be honest, Mr. Adam didn't really know how to manage the class or explain things, so the louder students often called him out on it. Sometimes he even left the classroom to bring in Mr. Jones, another teacher, to help him. A few girls would whisper, "Look, he has to get another teacher to help him." And one boy even commented on how thin he was. Alan kept trying to mimic Mr. Adams' voice, and later I found out that part of the reason was to impress me. I think I mentioned in one of my old videos that he liked me romantically, but I only ever saw him as a friend. Because of that, our friendship eventually fell apart. Friends come and go, I guess. Anyway, we ended up being the last class Mr. Adam ever taught because the next year he disappeared from the school. No one officially confirmed it until 2 years later when our new maths teacher, Mr. Jones, told us that Mr. Adam had actually completed his own maths GCSE in year 7 because he'd been such an academically gifted student. Then Mr. Jones added, "Being smart doesn't mean you can teach. You need actual teaching skills too." Another thing happened during chemistry. Xander is my chemistry partner, which I honestly find pretty unfair because my chemistry teacher only put us together thanks to the whole boy-girl seating policy. I'm pretty sure most schools have that rule, but still. And what makes it worse is that the boys who came in late were allowed to sit literally wherever they wanted. Tell me how that's fair, but I guess Xander wasn't the worst partner to end up with. Our teacher told us to raise our hands if we were happy with our seats. He put his hand up immediately. I definitely did not. Oh well, later on, Xander asked if I could switch with one of his friends. I told him, no, the teacher is going to notice. And he said, I'll just tell her it was my idea. Like, yeah, right, I'll believe that when pigs start flying. I just sat down and told him, you can move to your friend if you want, but I'm not getting in trouble, bro. He rolled his eyes. Then Patricia, our friend who sits in the row in front of us, turned around. Xander suddenly got an idea and asked, hey, Patricia, do you want to switch seats? And because she and I are friends, she immediately agreed. I was like, UP, thinking we got away with something. But then Owen sat in Patricia's old row too. Me and Patricia started giggling because the teacher was definitely going to notice something was off, especially since she pairs almost everyone boy-girl on purpose. Sure enough, as soon as she finished the register, she looked straight at them and said, something's not right. She pointed at Owen and said, I don't think you're in the right seat. Go back to your seat. Xander and another friend were laughing until Owen said, aw, they found us. Then he added, Xander isn't in his seat either, so the teacher told Xander to switch back with Patricia. Honestly, I high-key preferred sitting next to her over Xander. What a shame. While they were moving, Xander jokingly said,
this is all your fault, Patricia.
she just went.
What?
And ignored him. Then he sat back down next to me and said,
Looks like we're back together again.
I told you she'd know.
Shut up.
I said, I can't hear you, in the most sarcastic voice possible, and he muttered.
Oh my days, it's fine. Just forget it.
Then when Philip started laughing at Xander and Owen, Xander snapped.
Philip, you can't chat. You gooned to someone in this class.
Philip immediately yelled.
Shut up.
The fact that he didn't even deny it too. I swear, in my school, you can't go 1 week, not even one, without someone saying something questionable. It's literally impossible.
Hey guys, call me Roberto. This is a story about my classmates back when I was in grade 3. From what I remember, they were, well, pretty weird. There was a boy named Maxwell and another named Ezekiel, and they were usually up to strange antics that made everyone's head spin. Our school didn't have enough classrooms, so we had to use portables to hold all the classes. One day during recess, I was playing with a new friend named Eddie. He was a bit shorter than me too, but he had a big smile and was always eager to join in games. I had just moved to the school, so Eddie was still new to me too. While we were laughing and tossing a ball around, I suddenly heard a loud sound coming from behind one of the portables. Curious, I tiptoed closer to see what was happening, and what I saw made my jaw drop. Maxwell was shoving Ezekiel's face onto his you-know-what, and a few other kids were laughing and doing the most mischievous things you could imagine. I'm Filipino, and at that time my English wasn't very strong, so I couldn't explain everything clearly. Nobody really reported what was going on, but the kids eventually got in trouble anyway just for being behind the portables. It was against the rules, and the teachers weren't happy, even though it was a little scary to watch. Looking back now, it's kind of funny how chaotic our recesses could get. Kids can be really weird and a little wild.
Hey guys, you can call me Potato. So this past week I tried out for a new school. For anyone wondering, this is my first time being in a public school in 4 years. Anyway, back to the story. When I found my new class, everyone seemed really nice. People were friendly, and the vibe was pretty cool. But a few days later, things got weird. My friend pulled me aside and told me that this boy in our class, let's call him Dylan, had video called her and did something really sus. He flashed her with his no square. She told me it freaked her out, and honestly, I don't blame her. Stuff like that isn't okay, especially at our age. This might sound weird, but she also mentioned that it was too big for his age. Also, the same boy, Dylan, is actually our class captain, which means he's supposed to help keep things organized, but instead he spends the whole time standing up and yelling, "Shush!" at everybody, like every 5 minutes. One time he was doing his dramatic shush routine again, so I just looked at him and said, "Sit down like a good boy." And the whole class started laughing. Let me tell you another story which happened earlier this week. Our teacher, Mrs. Ramos, gave Dylan, yes, that Dylan, the class captain, clipboard. The clipboard basically makes him feel like he's the president of the entire planet. Anyway, during silent reading, Mrs. Ramos stepped out of the classroom for literally 1 minute. The door had barely closed before Dylan jumped out of his seat. He slammed the clipboard against his chest and marched up and down the rows like a prison guard from a movie. People tried so hard not to laugh. Then he was going up to anyone he saw laughing, saying, "She," or to anyone what was whispering or talking quietly whilst reading. Then he stopped next to my desk, pointed at me and said, "Potato, you're breathing too loud," marking you down. I stared at him like, "Bro, I'm literally just existing." He tried responding in a louder tone than me and said, "Rules are rules." A few kids snickered and Dylan turned around, yelling, "Shut up! This isn't a comedy show, it's a place to learn." Then, I swear, whilst walking back to his desk, he tripped on his own shoelace and stumbled. Right at that exact moment, Mrs. Ramos walked back in, saw him, and just said, "Why are you out of your seat?" Everyone just laughed at him. Then he sat down silently.
Hey guys, I don't look like this, but anyways call me Lisa. So anyway, I need to expose this one girl, let's call her Serena, because she is such a pick-me. Like, aggressively pick-me. And somehow nobody notices. You might be thinking, maybe she's just cute and sweet, Lisa, but no, just wait till you hear this. So there's this guy. I call him the human magnet because he somehow has like 6 or 7 girlfriends at once. Don't ask how, I don't know either. One night in our group chat, Serena and Iden were having this roast battle. I messaged Serena privately and gave her a roast to use, and yes, she saw it. Remember that. Then in the main chat, I said, "Serena, please say it," and suddenly she starts swearing like an average teenager. My friend group hates swearing and they told her to chill. And then she blames it all on me. Like, she straight up goes, "Lisa told me to say those words." Huh? Girl didn't even use the roast I gave her. She made up her own and threw the blame on me. Next day at school, everyone was avoiding me like I had the plague. And by that evening, I was kicked from the group chat. How lovely. The second incident is also about her. Now, in person, Serena is a whole different species. When she's around other girls, she's mean, ignoring everyone, acting like she's too important to breathe the same air. But the moment a boy walks by, especially Iden, she turns into some kind of little girl anime character. Suddenly, she's like,
"Ah, swearing because you dropped your ruler. Oh no, my period cramps."
Puppy eyes, bloated cheeks, voice higher than a squeaky toy. And the funniest part is that she told me she doesn't even like him, so now I'm convinced she's only doing this because I once said I liked Iden forever ago. It feels like she's trying to drag him toward her just to make me jealous, except now Iden is kinda weird, like something changed, and not in a cute way. So a few days after the whole group chat disaster, we had this big class project where we had to present in front of everyone. The teacher put us into groups of 4. Guess who ended up in my group? Serena. At first she tried to get moved. She literally raised her hand and went, "Miss, I think Lisa and I have beef." And the teacher, who was so done already, said, "Serena, sit down. It's just a poster." So she stayed. Our group had to make this huge poster about some science topic. I brought markers, glue, highlighters, the whole art supply arsenal. Serena, she brought lip gloss. That's it. The entire time, instead of helping, she kept flipping her hair and trying to talk to Aiden's group across the room like, "Aiden, do you need help cutting your presentation? Girl, you can't even cut paper straight. What are you doing?" Anyway, she ignored the whole assignment until the teacher announced, "Your group will present first." Serena froze. When we went up to present, Serena tried to jump in and take the spotlight because of course she did. She cleared her throat and said, "I basically did most of this." Before she could finish, our teacher cut her off saying, "Actually, I saw Lisa and the others working, but would you like to read out the notes and help out with something for once?" She tried to keep talking, but she didn't read anything beforehand, so she stared at the poster confused. Then she whispered to me,
What does this word say, evapora, Tyan?"
I whispered back, "It says evaporation." Serena, she went up to the class and said, "Evapo, raisin." The whole room exploded in laughter. Even Aiden had his head on the desk. She turned redder than a tomato that fell on the floor and rolled into the sun. We also wrote everyone's names who wrote something on the poster, kind of like credits, but we didn't add Serena because she didn't help. Because of this, the teacher pulled her aside for a talk. after the presentations. For our next lesson, we had a practical, and Serena was out with a group of smart kids who want everyone to do the work to make things even better. I then told my friend group, "Bro, why was Serena acting so weird during the presentation? She was trying too hard." Trying too hard. He said it himself. Sucks for you, Serena.
Hello, it's me, Layla, and I'm here to talk about something that happened with my classmate, Evelyn. So basically, on Thursday, we were presenting a project we had done on either the Romans or the Celts. Evelyn was my partner, and we ended up choosing the Celts. I was already pretty tired that day because we have to wake up at 6 a.m. just to get to school by 9. While we were getting everything ready, I was adding some finishing touches to our project. We had also written our names on it, so everyone would know who worked on it. As I was writing my name and adding a few fun facts, Evelyn suddenly said, "Why did you make iron silver?" I mean, silver is gray, and I wanted it to look nice, so I had drawn the iron in silver. I just ignored her because I didn't want to start anything or get in trouble. When it was finally our turn to present after everyone else had shared theirs, I ended up doing most of the talking since I had done most of the work. I was fumbling over my words, but I got through it. Afterward, I went back to my table, only for the teacher to announce that we had to do English for a bit. At that point, I was still annoyed that I had done almost everything for the project. At the end of the lesson, we were packing up our project pieces, and Evelyn suddenly said, loud enough for people nearby to hear, "Well, maybe if someone actually listened to me, our project would have looked better." I froze. I was tired, stressed, and honestly done with her attitude. I turned to her and said, "What are you talking about? I did almost everything, and you're mad because I used silver for iron?" She rolled her eyes and replied, "It's not just that. You always act like you know better." That annoyed me even more, because I tried to make sure the project got finished. So I said, "You didn't even help half the time." She replied, "I helped. You just never noticed because you were too busy, always doing everything your own way." At that point, we were both getting louder. A couple of classmates were staring, and I could feel my face heating up. I took a breath and said, "Look, if you wanted things done differently, you could have actually said something while we were working, not now." Evelyn crossed her arms, saying, "I did say stuff. You just ignored me." Trying not to yell, I replied, "It's because you complained about things that didn't matter." We stood there in awkward silence for a moment. Finally, the teacher glanced over, and we both quickly turned away and pretended to be busy. The argument didn't really solve anything, but at least everything was out in the open. I still felt frustrated, but also a little relieved that I had finally said something back. After class, things didn't exactly calm down. In fact, they got worse. Every time we walked out of a room or lined up to go somewhere, Evelyn would side-eye me. At first, I tried to ignore it. I honestly didn't have the energy for more drama. But then she started doing this thing where she'd accidentally bump into me with her shoulder. Not hard enough to make a scene, but just enough to annoy me. And it was so obvious it wasn't an accident. But she did it in a way that made it impossible for me to call her out without looking dramatic. I kept telling myself, "Okay, just let it go. It'll pass." A couple days later, I noticed my pencil was missing, then my eraser, then my favorite highlighters. I thought maybe I misplaced them, but one afternoon I caught a glimpse of Evelyn at her table, using my exact pastel set, the one I had saved up for. She didn't even try to hide it. She acted like nothing was happening, smiling at the teacher, pretending to be sweet to everyone else. And every time I looked at her, she'd just raise her eyebrows, like she was daring me to say something. I wanted to confront her so badly. But she always did everything so quietly, so sneaky, that I could never prove anything. If I told her off, she'd just deny it or act confused. So I was stuck there. I decided to just put my stationery in my bag instead of my table. It felt like she was trying to get back at me without ever admitting it, and I had no idea how far she was planning to take it.
Hello! I'm Carrie, and this story happened back when I was in 4th grade. The people involved were Felicia and Sebastian. It was after school, many people secretly brought out their iPads because the teachers were finally chill about it. Sebastian had this special app or trick that let him play Roblox even though it was banned on school Wi-Fi. He was nice enough to let people borrow his iPad to play games. I was one of the people waiting for a turn because I usually got picked up around 7 p.m. Then Felicia walked in and said something like, "I want to play Roblox." But Sebastian refused to let her play because she was often rude to people, and honestly, most kids tried to avoid her. Out of nowhere, Felicia got angry, like really angry. She grabbed a bottle of Elmer's glue and threw it at Sebastian's head. And then, boom, it hit him hard, and his head actually started bruising. Sebastian began crying, and then Felicia started crying too. They were both red like tomatoes, but for completely different reasons. After Sebastian came back from the nurse, both of them were called to the principal's office. And here's the wild part. Felicia didn't get expelled, she didn't get suspended, she only got a behavior warning. Looking back, I still can't believe something like that happened. I'm pretty sure I was the one who told the teacher what happened. 2 years later, everything felt different but also somehow the same. But I still remembered the glue incident. Felicia and Sebastian were never friends after what happened, but they didn't openly hate each other either. The whole situation came back up one ordinary morning. I walked into class and saw Sebastian sitting at his desk, looking annoyed. Felicia was standing a few feet away trying to explain something to our homeroom teacher. She looked stressed. Our teacher said, "Felicia, I'll talk to him." I sat down, pretending not to listen, but obviously listening, because who wouldn't? Turns out someone had taken Felicia's pencil case. A few kids were whispering that Sebastian was the one who grabbed it as payback for what happened in 4th grade. It wasn't true, but middle schoolers love drama more than oxygen. The rumor spread faster than anything I'd seen. By 2nd period, people were asking Sebastian if he finally got revenge. At lunch, Felicia walked up to Sebastian and said out loud, "Can you please stop telling people you took my stuff?" Sebastian yelled, "I didn't take anything. Why would I even do that?" Felicia looked like she wanted to cry. He said, "I swear I didn't." They were quiet for a few seconds, and then Felicia mumbled, "Okay," and walked away. Later that day, the teacher made an announcement saying the missing pencil case was found in the lost and found. Someone probably found it on the floor. The rumor died instantly after that, the same way it started. It was crystal clear that neither of them cared about the old glue incident anymore. They weren't friends, but they weren't enemies either. They were just two kids trying to get through school like everyone else.
Hi guys, you can call me Lilac. Today I'm exposing my so-called friend Luna. Me and Luna met in 4th grade. I honestly don't even remember how, but we ended up being friends for about 2 years. Then, in 6th grade, everything fell apart. So here's the story. Back in the grade when we met, I had already tried to stop being friends with her because she kept interrupting me, talking over me, and just being rude in general. I don't think she understood what I was trying to say, or maybe she just ignored it. Fast forward to 6th grade. It was me, Luna, and our new friend Celeste. That's when we started to realize that Luna was, well, a gaslighter and extremely dramatic. And when I say dramatic, I mean dramatic. Like, you could gently poke her and she'd claim you shoved her into a wall. Me and Celeste finally gave her a note explaining that if she didn't stop, we wouldn't be able to stay friends with her. It wasn't rude, just basic boundaries. But guess what did Luna do? She turned it into a huge argument. But later, when everything calmed down, we forgave her. Big mistake. More arguments happened, but then came the final straw. Luna kept gaslighting us, lying and exaggerating everything, but this time she added hypocrisy into the mix. Basically, she liked the boy, then stopped liking him. Celeste liked him afterward, and Luna freaked out even though she had done the exact same thing in reverse. When I confronted her, she yelled at me and said she wasn't being a hypocrite. The next day at recess, she kept side-eyeing us, and Celeste overheard her calling us the ops to her other friends. Celeste forgave her unfortunately, and guess what? Nothing changed. Luna was still gaslighting, dramatic, and hypocritical. I honestly didn't even want to forgive her after the hypocrisy situation, but Celeste wanted to, so I went along with it. Eventually, when Luna kept repeating the same behavior, me and Celeste realized we truly did not want to be friends with her anymore. So we basically broke up with her, but she still tries to talk to us. I want to tell her to back off, but I can't, at least not yet.
Hey guys, I'm Elliot, and here's a little introduction to my classmates. About Julian, he's the popular guy in our class right now. He's part of the same friend group I'm in, but he sometimes makes rude, sarcastic remarks just to be funny. They don't bother other people, but they do bother me. I mean, bro, that's straight up bullying. But yeah, we're still friends and gossip together. That's basically all we do. Quinn is my best friend. She's the most popular person in class and also smart. Riley is also kind of popular and always knows every bit of drama that's happening. She lives for gossip and talks about everyone behind their backs. She has 3 exes whose names all start with the letter R, and she gossips about the first one like crazy. We also gossip together about Summer and Dustin. Summer is a total pick-me girl who wants to be popular. She's literally a poser and thinks she's smart, but her grades say otherwise, like, try again next year. She also pretends to like football just to talk to guys, laughs at their unfunny jokes, and walks like a penguin. She's friends with Dustin. Dustin is the worst. When he transferred to our school, he was popular for about half a year before Julian took his spot back. He acts like everyone likes him and brags about being athletic and having decent grades. When I started to get on his nerves, he decided he hated my guts and thought I'd be offended. Bro, I've hated his annoying face since day one. Owen is a nice guy. Quinn and I are friends with him, and she sees him as a brother.
So, Julian and I were just minding our own business in art class, gossiping, which, by the way, is a form of art, so I guess that's why the teacher didn't say anything while we were chatting. Anyway, we suddenly saw a little piece of paper torn from a lined notebook. Quinn was talking to the girl sitting behind her, and her head was turned that way, so she didn't notice the note on her desk. Julian nudged me and said, "Look, do you see that on Quinn's desk?" While pointing at it, then he added, "Do you think we should grab it really quick?" So I quickly snatched the note off the desk. We opened it, and honestly, it was so hard to read I couldn't understand a single word at first. I swear it looked like a chicken wrote it, not a human being. But when we finally managed to decode it, it said, "Are you choosing Julian over me?" We all knew Dustin wrote that. I mean, who else could it be? In that moment, Julian and I started laughing like crazy. I swear, Dustin deserves to be disliked by me or by anyone else who doesn't like him. It's like he asks for it. One time in English class, the teacher left for a few minutes to take a call, and Dustin shouted across the room to his friend, asking for the answers to whatever exercise we were doing. Then, at the end of their short-to-minute conversation, he said that he hoped Julian and I would fail the test. We were literally taking that test at that moment. By the way, bro, no one cares that you don't like us and we're in the same room. We can hear you. I wasn't even offended, because I know he once got a 20 out of 100 on his English test for cheating, and I've never scored below a 97. Like, be quiet. After that, the teacher came back into the room, having heard Dustin talking, and took 2 points off his test score as punishment, which wasn't as much points he lost the first time he cheated. Also, when Riley and I were talking about him during one of our gossip sessions, because, honestly, I'm never fully up to date until she fills me in, she told me that while she was bad-mouthing her ex, she overheard a conversation between Summer and Dustin.
Wanna make Quinny jealous?
Yeah, let's do that.
I can't wait.
Bro, I swear we laughed and laughed about this so hard, and when they actually tried to make her jealous, Quinn didn't even notice. She was just living her best life, completely unbothered like any normal person would be. She didn't care if Summer and Dustin were close or not. Let me tell you about some of their attempts to make her jealous. They're hilarious. Honestly, I didn't even think they'd actually go through with it. I thought they were just joking. Summer decided to post an Instagram story where she and Dustin were holding hands with the caption, "Do y'all think he likes me?" mentioning Dustin's username. Then she posted another story of them sitting on a bench in the park, just a selfie with the caption, "Just having fun with insert Dustin's username hashtag forever his." Quinn just opened the story and left it unseen. Quinn and I were at the mall, looking for random things like anime merch and plushies. We also grabbed some food and played a few viral games, like that one with the poison candy. Then we started shopping for things for summer camp since we're sharing a room there, and yes, it's fine that we share a room even though I'm a boy. I'm biologically a girl. Anyway, we suddenly spotted Summer and Dustin. I have no idea how they knew Quinn was there, but maybe it was because she posted a story that said, "Getting ready to go to the mall with my Pookie." So there they were drinking bubble tea and staring right at us while Dustin put his arm around Summer. Honestly, we tried so hard not to laugh in front of them. Quinn didn't care one bit, but as soon as we were out of their sight, we burst out laughing. It was hilarious. A while later, Quinn and I were talking about anime until Dustin sent Quinn a friend request on Snap. Quinn asked, "Should I accept it?" I said, "Yeah, don't you want to laugh along with me?" So she accepted. After a while, this man sends her something so grammatically incorrect that we had no idea what he was trying to say, so Quinn just replied, "Okay, that's great." Then he tried to explain what he actually meant. She replied, "Oh, sorry, I didn't understand. I've been so stupid these days," and you know what he said? "It's chill, it happens, you're probably tired." He didn't even deny it like, "Oh no, you're not stupid or something." He just agreed. Like game's gone, in the trash, like him. Then one day after Parisi, Dustin decided to pretend he injured his leg, said he sprained his ankle or whatever even though literally no one saw him get hurt. Some people, like Omar and Summer, went to comfort him and tried to help him walk. They even offered to take him to the nurse, but he said, "It's okay, I think I can walk now." The hilarious part, while pretending to limp, he actually slipped and fell. Karma hit instantly.
Hey guys, I'm Biz. There's this girl in my form Chloe, dyed red hair, huge fake eyelashes, and makeup so heavy it looks professionally plastered on. Basically your standard popular girl stereotype. She sits next to me in computing. She also has these ridiculously long, glittery acrylic nails, not important, but they somehow always end up in the story. Anyway, one very eventful Tuesday, she suddenly turned to me in the middle of class and said loudly enough for several people to hear,
"Hey, can you fart during history later?"
She used my dead name, too, which made it 1,000 times worse. I just froze. I was mortified. A few seconds later, she spun back around to her friends and started laughing about the look on my face, which, apparently, was the funniest thing she'd seen all week. For your information, about a year ago I had awful gut issues, like, genuinely terrible. It meant I sometimes accidentally farted during class, and of course word spread. Very quickly, for a while, I became that weird kid. I got so stressed about it that I started holding everything in, which shockingly did not help my digestive system at all. Chloe didn't stop there. One day during computing, I came in late, and the only available seat was the one opposite hers. She pulled a tiny can of body spray out of her bag, waved it in my direction, and said to her friend, "Better keep this ready," while side-eyeing me. They both giggled too. Then whilst I was on the computers, she sprayed some at me. Then she turned to her friends, and they began giggling again. Our teacher tried to switch the seating, and Chloe loudly protested that she couldn't possibly sit anywhere else because she needed entertainment. She looked right at me when she said it. She also mentioned that I'm one of her favorite people to sit by. On another day, she started tapping her long nails against her laptop and told the others she was making a soundtrack for whenever I walked into the room.
Hi there, I'm Rin, and I'm going to sit back and tell a story from 3rd grade about a guy we'll call B. Me and B weren't friends at the time. I only knew who he was because he was one of the sporty football guys. One day we were standing in the hallway together when he turned to me and said, "Hey, Rini." I looked back at him and asked what the hell he wanted. He replied, never mind, but I was not about to let that slide. So I pushed him to tell me what it was. He said, "I like you." At the time, that was genuinely shocking to me. I said, "I like you too," just because I'd put him on the spot and didn't want to be rude. He cheered and went on with class. At recess, I would play football with him and his friends, though I was really bad at it, which made him get mad at me a lot. Sometimes he'd even hit me. He told me I was too big to run for the ball. I stopped playing with him. After that, during free time in class, he said something funny and I laughed. Then he said, "You laugh like a witch." I probably just glared at him because who even says that? He kept body shaming me and saying really rude things about me and my friends, calling us weird, loud, and annoying. So I told him I wanted to break up, and he said, "Me too. I don't want to be with a girl who looks like you." And that's when I broke up with him, because honestly, who wouldn't? B is still a jerk to this day.
Hello, I'll expose this classmate. We'll call him Elmo. Elmo and I used to be friends at first. He would pretend that I was his mother, like he would randomly call me mama during recess or lunch. Whenever I told him to stop, he'd kick my shins and say other weird stuff. Somehow, he found out I liked this really adorable, shy, easily flustered nerdy guy here above us, and he blackmailed me into doing things for him so he wouldn't tell the whole school. My friend Ari liked Elmo, so she never stood up for me when he bullied me. I confronted her about it, but she just said she didn't want to ruin their friendship. Ariana also went trick-or-treating with Elmo. Next story, I moved to a new school. This boy called Thomas figured out I had a crush on one of his friends. That gave him the green light to start bullying me. He bullied me by leaving sticky notes with really bad words written on them. He even ganged up on me a few times, even though he was shorter than me. When I tried to get help from my friends at the time, they completely ignored me. Thomas sacked. Thankfully, I don't see any of them anymore because I'm mostly online now.
Hey guys, I am Trina. Today I'll be exposing my classmate. I'll call that one girl Ava. So basically, I was in 7th grade. Ava decided to get on my nerves. My teacher, Mrs. Pinky, suddenly called me, and there was my classmate who asked me about my real name. Suddenly, Ava said, "Well, it's not important. She is not the main character." In my mind, I was like, "Why do you care? I mean, she just asked a question." Another time, when Mrs. Pinky told us to bake pizza, me and my mates grouped up. After we finished eating, Ava came to me and said that she was the only one who cleaned. But I cleaned too. That was the moment I suddenly started saying to her, "Ava, maybe you cleaned, but we did too. Why are you talking so much? You better shut it." Suddenly, she just walked away, minding her own business. I was like, yay, she stopped.
Hey guys, when I was in late elementary school, I used to be a tomboy. I remember this boy, let's call him Gabriel, really wanted to teach me how to groan, and it made me really uncomfortable at the time. Gabriel used to be my guy best friend. However, he didn't shower or wear deodorant, so he wasn't the best to be around. I went to his house once. He had moldy food, and his room was a mess.
Hello, call me Mimi. I'm going to expose my classmate. Let's call him Mickey. He was my least favorite. He was the class clown and always acted dumb. One time, he hit someone with a belt and got sent to the principal's office.
Hey, my awesome blue stars, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure to comment with blue hearts if you've reached this far, and also mention whose story was your favorite. Peace out, my awesome blue stars. Bye.